Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Serbian Corner show where a couple of Serbians talk about the Nuggets. We are on the DNVR YouTube channel, DNVR Nuggets podcast feed. My name is Voja, hailing to you from Lincoln. Today with me, as always, is Miroslav from Pancho. What's up, man?
You you don't know how lucky you are that this modern technology is not modern enough so you can smell my t-shirt right now because I just got off my pickup basketball game. So hopefully it will not transmit
It's
any
not.
more
It's
than
not. It's not 6D, so we're good.
that's right. That's right. Hello
Yeah.
everybody.
So what we do on the show is a weekly recap of Nuggets basketball, some quick takeaways, main themes, disagreements, everything else in between. And so we'll start off, as we always do, with rakia shots. Rakia is a Serbian national alcoholic drink, usually taken before dinner to make a toast. So what the segment would be is just a quick headline, something to, I guess, toast about or something that made a big impression on us quick and strongly this week. So why don't you start us off? What are you drinking this fine Saturday, I guess, morning for most of us in the
I,
States?
I've called it crowning of the king because big media is finally accepting the MVP as the big dog of the league. Two things actually happened this week on the big media that really got my attention. First, the NBA.com made a beautiful video about Nikola Jokic, his unorthodox dominance on the basketball court and the long strides he's made from the almost unknown second round pick to being the best player in the world. I think this video is a year late, but better late than never. When I think about it, it is strange they haven't taken that American dream angle on it before. You know, it really is the American dream story. And the other thing was Jay Williams calling out the big media talking heads for not having Nikola in their headlines on the first take on ESPN a couple of days ago. He was presenting Nikola's historic numbers that are even more impressive than last year's from his MVP campaign. And he also talked about the context of Nikola dragging the injured Nuggets roster to secure playoff spot. Now, Stephen A. Smith, who was in the studio with him back then, he was cornered and he delivered a very honest rant on why the headlines do not start with Nikola as his personal frontrunner. He admitted he is his MVP frontrunner, but he acknowledged that Nicola's amazing accomplishments this season, and he talked about how there is nobody out there not recognizing him as a top dog in the league. But also he confessed that the fact that there is no drama around him, coupled with the fact that Denver is not a coastal market, is the reason he and his colleagues still begin every show with talking about Lakers drama. He admitted he is disgusted with the number of the Knicks games on the
Yeah.
national team, and so on. So it was literally a dream scenario for me. Like I was Stephen A's puppet master, making him say those things. I was so happy. We won. Boy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get why you're feeling it. It's just funny to me. Like I don't really feel like we won anything. Well, at least from I didn't win it. Well, I didn't win anything, or I really don't care because I never cared when they didn't cover him or they were like dismissing of him. So I don't really care if now that they're covering him. Like also, it's funny. Like NBA finally made a video and then they put a wrong country on the highway like
That's
sign.
right.
It wasn't there was no Belgrade on it or Sombor. Like it was Croatian cities, which is like no offense to Croatia, just it's a different country. It
Come
would
on,
be
man.
like
Close enough. Close
yeah,
enough.
it's
Not too bad.
yeah, no, but it's still funny. Like just like, do a little research. Like it's not that it would be basically like talking about like LeBron's Akron and putting in like Lincoln, Nebraska as a as his thing. So that was also funny. But yeah, I mean you're right. It does feel good. Like it's still weird that because they have such a big voice, like we do feel like finally some validation. I personally don't really care that much. Like they can, it's late to the party anyway. Like I don't, now you're finally getting it and that he's good. And then the fact that they admitted it was even like more. It's more hilarious to me because we all knew. It's just that it's finally they said it. Like yeah, he doesn't have drama, so it's not that interesting. Like again, they're outing themselves as really incompetent, like actually sports analyst people. Like I guess I don't know if because the point is I don't know what their point of the show is. Is it point of just to drum up ratings and and be sensationalistic journalism, or do they actually want to talk about basketball? If that's the things, like they're under, like they're like presenting themselves like they're analyzers and analysts, and like talking about how they know ball and all that crap, but then they admit that you actually just want to cover more of this stuff because of the drama outside of the court. So it's like, I love that Jay Williams called him out. Like he's, he it
I
should be
swear,
enough that he's a good basketball player, like not that he has Instagram followers. Like
I swear to God, at one point I thought he would say, like, don't listen to me about things about basketball. When Zach Lowe comes here, then you can listen to the basketball takes. I'm here, to make everything shiny and
yeah,
attractive for casual viewers. I don't know.
yeah,
It was really fulfilling. I have to
yeah.
be honest.
It's fine. It's, for me, also it's funny because like you talk about first, the what was undisputed, Skip Bayless, Shannon Sharp. I mean, so Shannon Sharp's like, I'm like, please, he's fine. Like he's a Denver legend. It's just always hilarious to me, like what he's like. His arguments for Jokic are like, that's why Skip is so loud. Is like because it's easily beatable. Like your main argument for Jokic is that he's a center that pushes the break. You've never seen that before. It's like that's your one thing. You rest your argument. He can pass in transition. Like yes, that's sensational. But like again, we've seen Magic at 6'10" do it. Like it's not unseen before. It's just that
That's right.
if that's your only argument, just don't argue. Like you clearly don't know a thing about it. And then then you have the ESPN like roundtables of the Perkinses and all these like. So I'll add this because like I'm really tired of the MVP discussion and all that stuff. It's funny because Luka is like doing sensational things too.
That's right.
It's just that he started. It's kind of like the Jokic in 2018 or 2019-20, like when they're really good. It's just that he started the season off poorly, and they rated him so low that now it's really hard for him to like backtrack that. Now they have to actually prove themselves wrong from the beginning of the season by not putting him in higher. And so now he's like, he can't claw back in. Same thing with DeRozan. Like he was so disregarded that now it's like really tough, like to push him out, back up. And then also with Luka, because they were having him as favorite last year, now he has to actually work harder to get up there. And then of course Giannis is just a more puzzling one to me. He's like actually 4 years in a row, he's probably the best consistent best player in the league. As much as we love Jokic, Giannis has probably even been higher level, and with winning the championship and everything now added on top of that, is that he's also rated third. He's hilarious just because like he won two, so we're used to it. Like it's always shifting criteria. It's always stupid. So like especially after last night's game, if the Nuggets keep slipping on some of these like games that they should win, Jokic will now win an MVP. So I should suggest people start like thinking about that, that avenue, because don't get outraged if we end up being seventh and he doesn't win the MVP, because honestly, that case he shouldn't.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. It would be a really, really rare situation to get a seventh seed with the MVP, and honestly, it wouldn't be deserved.
Yeah, and just a quick reminder before we move on, for our Serbian listeners, just keep it in English. I forgot to mention that at the beginning, for everyone, for advertisers, for us, to everyone be involved. So make sure to have that. And I saw a comment, it was like, I'd rather have Jokic respect of guys like Embiid, Kobe, Bill Walton, LeBron, and Greg Popovich over the respect of guys like Nick Wright and Skip Bayless. THTR201 commented, completely agree. Like I said that before, like when people were outraged about Nick Wright, I'm like, who is he? Like, why is he the authority on anything? Not just basketball, just anything in life. And the fact, when Popovich says he's a Larry Bird reincarnation, and then the commentator on the Celtics that is watching all those Celtics years confirms it, and all these guys are praising him, these like talking heads shouldn't matter. Like they really shouldn't.
I agree. I really agree.
Okay, let's move on. What's our second shot? What do you have?
Yeah, well, it was kind of a surprise to me. I've first heard it like 3-4 days ago that Coach Pešić is visiting Nikola Jokic this weekend. He is the coach of the Serbian national team, Svetislav Kari Pešić. And
the first Kari.
Yeah, the first Kari. Well, actually, I don't know. Yeah, he's probably older than Del Curry as well.
Yeah, of course he is.
He is. Okay, so I believe he will be in Denver to watch the game against the Celtics, and he will take that opportunity to talk to Nikola about possibly playing for the national team on the Eurobasket this September. Just to set up the stage a bit, Coach Pešić is a very experienced coach who already won Eurobasket gold with Yugoslavia in 2001 and then FIBA World Cup gold in 2002. Nikola's coach Dan Milojevic, who we spoke about last week, was playing for those teams alongside Peđa Stojaković, Vlade Divac, Dejan Bodiroga, Marko Jarić, just to mention a few stars from that team. This team defeated George Karl's team USA, led by Paul Pierce, Michael Finley, Andre Miller, Sean Marion, and Baron Davis in the quarterfinals in 2002, and then won gold medal against Argentina with Ginobili, Scola, Alberto, and Nocioni. I think this visit is significant, and I will give my early prediction that Nikola will in fact play at Eurobasket this September. And it is based on the fact that he has always expressed how important it is for him to play for the national team, how he says that the Olympic silver medal is still his biggest basketball accomplishment, but also the circumstances are a lot different this season compared to the last year when he skipped the Olympics. And I'm not talking about him being exhausted from 2 seasons playing nonstop, or about him and his wife expecting a baby shortly after the Olympics. I'm talking about how different next season will hopefully be for the Nuggets compared to this one. Because last summer, Nikola knew he wouldn't have Jamal for most of this season and that he needs to be in top shape from the jump for the Nuggets to have a chance to compete. You mentioned how the first couple of months of Luka's season looked like, because he played at the Olympics and then he came completely out of shape at the beginning of this season, and that will actually cost him the MVP title this season, because he really is playing like an MVP for the last 3 months or so. Next September, the situation will hopefully be different, and Nikola will be able to count on Jamal carrying the team while he plays himself into shape after the Eurobasket. And the Nuggets organization and Nuggets fan base owe to him to let him continue building his legacy, and gold medals with the national team are a must in a proud basketball nation of Serbia.
Yeah, I think
that's my
I think it's a cool thing just that he's cool and necessary. Not necessary. Like, I've seen articles back home that are like he's going there to beg Jokic to play or like recruit him. I'm like, I don't think. First of all, I don't think Pešić begs anyone. Like, and they shouldn't. Like, people should want to play for the national team. Like, there shouldn't be any recruiting involved. If that's true, and if Jokic is getting like begged to play, like that sucks. Like, I wouldn't want to see that, because no one, like, he's not as much as as good as he is. Like, no one deserves to be begged to play for the national team. Like, that should just be a thing you want to do. And we've seen Serbia do much better when there's even less talent, but when people that want to play are on that team. So that's my first thing, and I don't think he's coming here to beg. I think it's necessary because of this like weird FIBA windows that people have. So for people that don't know, FIBA does this thing in America as part of that too with qualifiers. It's just that this side of the continent is like so weaker in competition that America can go. I think Matt Ryan from the Grand Rapids Gold was on one of those teams. Like, recently they played, I think, Puerto Rico in one of those qualifyings. Joe Johnson's on that team. I don't know if he's pro, and he's playing for that team. So they're doing these like weird soccer type windows of qualifiers where in the middle of the season they just have a weekend when national teams play for to qualify for a championship. It used to be in the off season you would go and qualify, and then you would play later in the summer or something, like for that competition, whatever it is. So right now it's so weird. That's why Serbia had a little trouble qualifying for the Olympics, because there was so many, with all this weird COVID season, like so many injuries and cancellations, and for playing for the team, so they didn't even qualify. Previous seasons we barely qualified, I think, for a previous competition because of this same thing, because all of our players are so good and they're the top talent is so good, they're playing for all these competitions that don't allow them to take a weekend off. So NBA, EuroLeague, they don't let players just go for a weekend because there's still games going on. So there's that weird like jockeying with FIBA for that. It's so weird. And then they also shorten, like NBA has a rule, you can't practice for a month after season's done or some stuff like that too. And I think this is important for Perisic to come, not for Jokic. Also, he's probably going to go to see Bogdan and Bjelica and probably talk to Dan Milojevic, all these guys, just so they can be on the same page because they have so little time in training camp. And you want your best players and your coach to be on the same page. So this is kind of going to be cool if, talk to Jokic and see like, hey, where we are, what are you thinking for that competition? If we play, like, what do you, maybe even some like tactical stuff, or just in general, like what you can count on. Because if you have an idea, if you can gauge, and he's a really good coach, like he can probably like discern if he's interested in playing in Bogdan, if he can play in Bielica, he can already start planning ahead of like, hey, maybe I'm not counting on this guy, and play for some contingencies. Okay, what's going to happen if Jokic is not playing? Who can we count on? What team I'm going to build around? Because it's not always about just putting people on a spreadsheet, the best talent. Like sometimes you have to get the best fits, not just best players. So that's really, for me, that's really cool. I just don't think, it was funny just seeing Serbian tabloid article type headlines of like begging Jokic to come and all that bullshit. So it's gonna be fun to see him, just to see Denver and like see him in the stands. Like that'd be like a cool situation.
I'm not reading that bullshit at all.
That's the only, well, that was the only way I can see if that's actually true, because you said he's coming to America. I'm like,
yeah,
there's no other way to check besides
yeah,
that.
sure.
Yeah, and also there's like Ogi Stankovic is here too as an assistant, so like you'll talk to him. Maybe who knows, knock on wood, like he'll be a part of the national team, like with Jokic as one of the assistants. So that's gonna be a cool development if that happens. So
Yeah, and
yep.
Pesic is doing this job as a pro, meaning he's not training any club during the season. He's only concentrated on the national team. So this is why he's able to travel and visit the players he counts on. So that's pretty cool. And honestly, it's the only way to make this connection with the players feel natural in these days, because it's easy for us to speak how back in the 80s everybody was playing for the national team. Back in the 80s the world was a completely different
Yeah.
world than what it is today, and you had players playing until age 27 in the national league before being able to go abroad, because it was just not allowed for them to go out. So different things, different eras. So I'm really glad Pesic took a chance on this team, and I really hope they will be able to assemble the team of stars for this European Championship, Eurobasket, because the last gold we have is from that 2002 World Cup with Pesic as a head coach as well. So 20 years is too long for nation of Serbia not to have basketball gold.
Yep, I agree there. So yeah, let's move on. Let's see what my rocket shot is. Well, yeah, so it's Bones finishing. Well, it's just a Bones this week, but particularly finishing tight game last night in overtime, fourth quarter in overtime. I think he was one of the reasons we blew the lead in the overtime and had some mistakes that they're basically rookie mistakes. Like it's a saying for a reason. So but I think it's a really good, like a schooling game. This is like there's a lot of film that you can show them, like, hey, you did great. There's things that you did really well, but there are these like specific situations where directly your lack of focus and like engagement cost us like a points on the board, like direct correlation of like you allow a couple offensive rebounds because you just spaced at that moment and didn't box out your guy. Like because usually he plays on ball, and he's a guy, like in the second unit, so he's involved in the direct action, and he's rarely off ball and guarding a guy that's just like Lamar Stevens or Isaac Okoro, just the guys that's their job, like doing the Torrey Craig things. So that was really good to just there's going to be film of like, hey, these are the things you got to pick up because you're too good on offense, and there's going to be some notes on offense too, but like you're too good of a influence not to leave you in there. But if you make mistakes like this, we can't put you in there because those are the mistakes that cost you a playoff game, and you don't want to lose a playoff game because of a couple offensive rebounds in tight spots. because that's what when ultimately when we want to win a championship, it's in the details. Not just, I mean, obviously it's you need the bulk to get you to the playoffs and get you as far as they can, like the bulk talent and stuff. But some of the mistakes that happened yesterday were very much kind of discouraging in a way because it's so late in the season and they're still happening. The turnovers, the unforced errors, some of those lapses in concentration. I'm just glad Malone didn't pull him like that. That could have been easily done. And even though Monte, I don't know, I honestly just tuned out after that game, watched some college ball. I don't know if there's any news about why Monte didn't play a lot. Was it injury or just
No,
benching?
no,
Like I hope
nothing
it's
yet.
just benching. So he still had Monte available. Then doesn't matter if he was bad in the first half. He still had him available to sub in. So that was good that Malone did that thing, and it was for me it was a loss that like because it happened like that. I'm fine with because Bones is going to learn from this a lot. Same note on the offense from him is you can see that we were missing Monte two man game with Jokic because no matter how that's a step down from Murray and like even a step down for Barton when Barton's playing well. Monte has gotten used to like taking the control in this game and in the games and attacking. Bones was just because again he was a rookie, and I know that's like a good thing. You can see that kind of timidness because of he's playing with better players, so he's not trying to jack up shots at the end to because. Um, but I think like that's also learning point for him to like relax in these situations. Like, hey, you're doing a 2 man game. You're the point guard. Take some responsibility on yourself as well, and try to attack when Jokic is like double triple teamed. Like it's up to you to attack that on weak side. It doesn't even have to finish, but at least just kick out to players for open shots. It was a lot of like, what are we going to do if we can't get the ball to Jokic? A lot of standing around, and then like Barton's obviously the one that's going to take that shot. And he wasn't on yesterday. So I think it was a really good. Love that Bones was there, and especially the Cleveland's game. Philly's great. Like that's like the game. He took over all that stuff. The shots were going in. Philly wasn't respecting him to get out his shot, but Cleveland actually was like a real tight game at the end with a good defense. That I'm glad. I hope he learns from a lot from it. I think he will.
I really think Malone was trying out something new yesterday because it doesn't make a lot of sense to bench Monte and play Barton in the final stretch with him being so cold during this game. I think he was trying to be really long to try to
I think
put
that's
big,
what yeah,
yeah,
that's what it was.
to
Yeah,
put
yeah.
to put the biggest possible
Because they
five
were
out
huge.
there.
They were huge. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And it's really strange. I mean, he wanted obviously he wanted to reward Bones for playing well during these last several games, and he deserved those minutes. And I don't know how much better of defense we got from Barton compared to what we would got from Bones on his spot and with Monte playing the point. On the other hand, I think it's really hard to say what would be the best solution out there because Nuggets really had this game wrapped up. The Cleveland was literally giving themselves up several times. Nuggets made some
Yeah.
really silly mistakes at the end of regulation and also in the overtime. It was really frustrating. But as Matt Moore said, listen, it was a three game road trip. They've gone 2-1. I guess basketball gods gave 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 one away from Denver because they've made that 19-point comeback against Philly. So maybe in the big scheme of things, it was logical for them to drop one after
Is the
having
basketball
won.
god Scott Foster or?
Scott Foster
'Cause-
loves that camera, man. He
yeah,
loves
he
to
was.
go to the camera and look handsome there.
Yeah, he was. I didn't know he was refing, and then it was up 10-12 in the fourth, and it was like not on my watch. You'll know that I was a part of this game. So started calling some stuff. Like it was. I kind of wrote that down. It was like around if they're up 12. It was it 10 minutes or 6 or 7 minutes. he called that goaltending on Gordon, and then he called out of bounds from a cross court position. Like it even wasn't there was a ref there, and he called it from like another place. That was just in a row, so like they went from 12 to like 7 and within like within a couple of minutes, and just made it a game. And then he called that 3, and then the travel and the it was just funny, just like how much he was that we know the ref's name. It kind of sucks.
Do,
But I
do
mean, there was a lot of like reasons they lost. It just that was one of them that kind of blew. That was the case.
after the game, Nikola was describing that last position in the regulation, and he said, "I don't know, man. I'm used to having either Jamal or Monte."
Yeah, yeah, that one
And
was
then
definitely that's the bones. Yeah, yeah.
do you think that was a knock on Malone?
No, I don't. I mean,
That comment.
I don't know. I don't know if it was a knock. It just I think it was just a statement, and maybe I mean maybe it was like, hey, like give me the guys I'm used to. I don't care if he played badly. Like trust him at the end, because it's kind of weird that the adjustments that he made was so strange that way, and also just not making an adjustment of he's done that before benching Barton, not putting Rivers back in because they're similar height anyway. Because I understand the height. The point is that he kept what we talked about. He kept Barton in because of also the rebounds, but it was funny. Just again, Barton's not really great at boxing out
That's right.
and like collapsing on the board. So it's just that was like an odd one. Like as much as he was good against Philly and pushing the right buttons, it was just weird. But yeah, I think that was he's used to. Of course, he's used to being with Monte. Like there was just they were off by a little bit, and again because like how Bones wasn't attacking, so it was just everyone knew from Cleveland that Bones wasn't there to finish. Like Monte would have, if they all overloaded, Monte would have shot the shot. It doesn't matter if Jokic can get the ball. If there's 3 of them are going to be on Jokic, he's going to take responsibility and be fine with it. With Bones, they all knew like he's not going to be there to take it upon himself to shoot, which again is a good, which means like he was properly like trained within the Nuggets organization of like, hey, you know your hierarchy. Like he's not just jacking up shots, because everyone would ask like, why didn't he get the ball to Jokic? That now the flip part of it is because everyone knew he was going to get the ball to Jokic, they could set up the defense, and he was waiting too long. Because that's the things, that's the chemistry, that's knowing how long it takes you to get into that motion with pick and roll motion with Jokic. He doesn't know, like he maybe was used to being quicker on the second unit and him attacking, so it doesn't take 5 or 6 seconds to set it up. With him, it only maybe takes 3 or 4. He started late, and it ended up being like a sombor shuffle 3 and almost
Yeah.
went in, but I think that was the thing, is that because he doesn't have Monte, even Barton there, like in that situation.
Imagine the energy we would have right now if that summer shuffle went in. But
So it would have been such bullshit if that
he
went in.
he, he actually he actually missed several summer shuffles in a row, which
Yeah,
is really strange. Something's going on. Maybe
he's not practicing enough anymore. Like he's not.
maybe he's trying to, when you play pickup basketball and before the game you just start jacking some ridiculous shots, so you miss all of them before you start actually playing and counting the result. And then if you waste or spend all of your misses beforehand, and then when the real push comes to shove, then you just start
Yeah,
scoring. Maybe
maybe.
he's doing that, just missing
Yeah,
everything before the playoffs.
a soft question from THTR. Is it the right time to reward Bones for minutes, and especially how two-man game has been with Monte and Jokic, and the wins are so important? I mean, I honestly think it is, because Jamal's going to get back hopefully soon, so you're going to have to. It's going to ruin the chemistry anyway, and you might depend on Bones in the future. So I'm rather him learning from this game in this crunch time than learning in the playoffs, because sometimes foul trouble might happen. They might play bad, and he's playing well. So I'd rather him learn now than that's why this is my rock here. Like I'd rather him learn now than in 2 weeks when they're playing in the first round against a really good team. Like I rather want to see, like, I don't care if it's an Okoro offensive rebound on a Friday in March than an offensive rebound from like Andrew Wiggins if they're playing Golden State in like a couple of weeks for in the crunch time for the win. So and especially because you don't have margin of error to lose. You can't go to 7 games against some of these teams. I don't think you'll get to 7 games if you go down again in the
That's right.
playoffs. So there's every little bit matters, and I think it was a fine enough. It wasn't ideal, obviously. Like we should have won, but I'd rather have this learning curve now than learning point now than later.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay. Yeah. Then people said Barton should have been should be out way before Monte. I think was that weird, like we need length kind of type. So we're not getting to that now. We might get into Barton later. I don't know. We might mention him because it might have been the last straw for me yesterday as like the last Serbian on the Barton train. Okay, so we'll go to Burek now. Let's go to our main course. Nice juicy pastry dish, as always. Comes with cheese, spinach, meat. So it's well known because Nikola used to eat it. What this segment will be is something high caloric, something like very like juicy that we want to talk about this week. And so we'll start off with the team win against the Sixers. So what did you think about that one? That's for me at least. Like I don't care that I care we lost, but I really care that we won that game.
Okay, well, first of all, I have to say that I really like how Embiid played that game. He wasn't pulling a lot of bullshit moves like Harden did. Harden was really terrible
Yeah,
in this match, and Embiid was had a valiant effort in this game. I liked how he was trying to push his team to the victory. And I don't know, man. Those two really don't fit together. I mean, they're both great players, and great players usually tend to fit together eventually. But Harden really wants a lob threat, and Embiid is everything else but a lob threat. He is just not his game, and they're going away from the heavy post up game with Embiid because they want to accommodate to the way Harden likes
yeah,
to play in pick and rolls. And on the other hand, we had the Nuggets team with Nikola Jokic, who entered the game quite slowly and didn't have a lot of production in the first half, or at least in the first quarter. And then, of course, he got to his more or less usual numbers by the end. But the effort for the whole team was really good, and I liked the way Boogie was saving the bench against Embiid. We've seen this several times now that when you have a dominant center on the other side, they don't actually guard Jokic for the whole game. They actually escape from Jokic, and it's not the players; it's the coaches. I don't blame the players, of
yeah.
course. So the coaches just take away in this situation. Doc took away Embiid from Jokic to try and play against the bench, and Boogie was really good in that. I mean, of course, Embiid got to his 35 points or whatever, but Boogie didn't let the dam be destroyed. In those minutes, he was really good. And Bones, of course, Bones had a masterful game. It was
Yeah.
like Adam said, it was the coming of Bones Highland. And I have to say, what Bones did in that game, that happened much sooner than I expected from him to happen. I was hoping for him to get something like this in his second season on the team, something like that. But this early, man, it's really mind-boggling.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, you're right. It was a team win. Um, I'm kind of here and there with Embiid. I hate the freaking middle of the paint step backs he shoots. It's so annoying.
Sure,
Like
sure.
because again, like it was kind of. I mean, I was rooting for those because he was missing them, but I'm there yelling like you could have scored 45. Just go in, like because there was no one around him. He would just do that stuff. I don't know, trying to save his energy or avoid contact. Like I've known, it was just weird, and I don't know if Jokic got in his head because he wasn't getting as many free throws as you would think for playing against one on one against the center.
You
So I don't know
remember
if that.
what we talked about last week? Will not Jokic be in the foul trouble?
Yeah.
And it was completely vice versa. Jokic had
Yeah,
like one foul during the
it was really
whole
ironic.
game.
Like that, we were worried about Embiid fouling on Jokic and causing the shift in a game with 2 or 3 quick fouls. And it was the other way around. It was Embiid got 3 fouls at plus 19, and then went out of the game, and Jokic started pushing the pace and kind of destroyed him in transition to turn the game around. So that was really fun. But I think like because I don't know what happened in that third quarter, Embiid missed like 4 or 5 in a row, and just for no reason. And then Denver took over.
He was
Um,
gassed.
Yeah, but probably. I mean, yeah, they did play back to back. He's not used to playing that, and I honestly think if he wasn't Denver, he probably would have rested. But at this point, like they really could. Like I think he wanted to play. I think they were just like, we have to. There's no if basically if he's rested, that he loses the MVP.
Yeah.
Like just on the spot. Like this way, at least it's still up in the air because he played well and Jokic was like fine, and then now Jokic's losing. So like if we talked about it, if it goes to seventh, all that stuff. Now I saw the Giannis is not playing for the Bucks against the Wolves today, so we might actually end up being seventh tomorrow,
Shoot.
or stuff like that. I don't know. Yeah, it's still one loss column, one in the loss column.
Yeah, but the Wolves have the
but it's not
tiebreaker.
equal in the loss column. That's what I mean. It's still one.
Yeah, that's right.
But it's just funny because like they're catching these breaks, and it is what it is. They've been playing well too, and Dallas is as well. And it was just I know. But to get back to this, like Embiid, I like it. I just like Jokic's game more. It's just a preference thing. Like yeah,
no question about it. It's much more enjoyable to watch. But I just wanted to say, I was afraid of some cheap shots, of some foul hunting, and I didn't see any of that. Maybe just a few of them. So that was nice. And when you saw that fourth quarter from Harden, then you see how bad it can actually look like.
Yeah, and it was cool. Like it was on ESPN. Bones was funny because Bones was so charismatic and he had his people there, and it was just that like what you talked about earlier with Stephen A. saying like also stuff off the court. Like Bones, it's not only that he played well, it's just that they could actually that was like a good story that they can put out there, like with the clip of him receiving the sweatshirt from the fire department and from Wilmington, Delaware. Like he has 600, 500, 600 people there. Big pictures, the videos and with his favorite teacher giving her the game jersey, crying at the press conference. Obviously, like that wasn't a stunt of his. Like I'm just saying, like they can make it really like put a nice package around that and showcasing because you also had a really good game. The funniest thing to me was just, I mean, Philly fans, a lot of fans, you'd be like, oh, Embiid had Bones Highland, and Jokic had Bones Highland, and Embiid didn't, as if now Denver somehow has more help than Philly does with all their max players there. I mean, the Harden's like a
incredible
MVP and like scoring champ, like triple, whatever. Like just Harden by himself should be enough as of help, like with that team. And then you add Thibault as the best defensive perimeter player in the league, and Tobias Harris a max player. It was just funny that it turned out to be like, oh, Highland is the breaker. Like the fact that people don't watch Nuggets, that was very evident that they think he plays like that the whole entire season. Like Tyrese Maxey was probably better the entire season. The rest of the Nuggets, and not even counting Harden and the rest of the guys, like just Maxey by himself he's better help than most just by a season that he's having. So it was just hilarious. Also for me, it was fun. Like might as well, like just that's the point of, for me, the MVP is like you're rallying your guys, making them play better than they might be for other teams. And Embiid was a great individually, but his team collapsed at the end. He honestly, like, not collapsed, but he had a shot to tie the game. Like he had this really like a dribble in three over Jokic. Jokic was far away, and then he passed it off to Niang to side of the backboard. So I think it was kind of, that was, for me, it's most valuable. It's not the best player in the league, because best, like what that's also like who would you want to have in this one game series? Like who's the most versatile? Like obviously you maybe want to have Durant or some of the guys that can dribble the ball and like go one-on-one on a 7-game series more than Jokic, maybe. Like I wouldn't, but like those are different arguments. But most valuable is like what the guy that makes everyone around them play better. And Jokic had his teammates rally around him and play better than they previously did because of his control of the game.
That argument about Durant is, who do you want for the last 2 minutes of regulation of the game 7 when the result is tied? But you need to get to that point.
Well, of course,
from the jump, and you have a system player in Jokic. It was a joke that Jokic is a system player.
Yeah.
The system around him is producing his numbers, but he really is the fulcrum of their offense and their defense, and there is no other player like him in that regard. And about that help he has versus Embiid, that Will Barton is Nuggets' second best player.
14.8 points.
14.8. That's the last second scorer in the whole league. if you look at the first and second scorer in the whole league, Will Barton is the last. And that's not a knock on any of the Nuggets players. If they had Jamal or if they had Porter, one of them would be scoring like 16, 17, 18, 19 points a game. So it's just very natural for that. So
of course. I mean, and that's the thing is like you have more because of how Jokic plays. Like the thing is, you're right. He's a system player, but not because of he's just a part of a system. He is the system.
Yeah,
and so you have Barton, you have Gordon, you have Monte, like 14, 14, 13, Boogie and Bones, around almost 10 points. Jermichael 8. Like so, it's very consistent around him, which again begs the question of like. Is it better to have more consistent, like 7 or 8 15-point guys than a couple of 20 to 25 point per game guys? That's like a debate for other times, but it's just funny to see that comments like at the end of like, oh, he's he has a better bench and like Embiid's carrying these bums, and I'm like, I don't know, man, 44 million for a bum, like it's
honestly, if we only look at that one game, Nuggets bench was better than Philly's bench.
Yeah, it was, of course, it was. But it's their starters that should be better than the Denver starters. That's the point.
So much better than Nuggets starters, and they, it was like +3 in their favor or something like that.
Yeah, they scored a lot of points. Like it's
I have to say
that's things that they've been raising. They showed a couple of nights in a row. They showed on the broadcast there were 27 points in October. Bench was per game, and now they're 43 in February, March. So that's a lot of. I mean, you had a lot of points there. So.
Oh, and Gordon was sick on that game, if you remember, and he played for only like 20 minutes, and he was a shell of himself. So basically, without 3 starters, come on, Philly, you can do better.
Yeah. It's just because because there were much better excuses. You could have just said it's the second night of a back-to-back. We use that excuse all the time. It's a valid excuse. Like you were in Toronto, it's the same thing happened with Golden State. You were in Sacramento, came back. Of course, you're not going to have gas in the fourth. Just say that instead of like having a better bench, because that means you're just talking out of your ass. Like you're not actually paying attention. So, and again, like I think they just ran out of gas too. Like it might be like if they're both fully healthy, like also including Gordon, then fully healthy as well, might have been the same outcome, but it might have been a different trajectory to that outcome.
There is something, about the team with Doc Rivers on that helm, and then having a +19 in a game. That's never a good sign for them.
Yeah, it was kind of also That's after 2 years they played, and it was both comebacks. Like Philly had control, and then they lost it. It's the microcosm of Jokic's career. Like everyone is just having him like, oh, he's down by 20, he's done, and then he just comes back and takes it over and wins. And yeah, that's great. Do you want to keep going?
Yeah, I just wanted to say a couple of more things about the bench. J. Mike was really, really good in this game on both sides of the court, and we also already mentioned Bones. We mentioned Boogie. Rivers had some nice stretches as well. I really like this bench unit, and I'm so scared that we will have to break them apart soon. So let's move to another Burek of the week.
Yeah, let's move on to that. We had the news. Jamal and MPJ might be back now, and Malone kind of cold poured cold water on everyone yesterday when he said don't expect him soon. Again, it's his job. Like people shouldn't like get too hyped. But again, like the G League, 2 practices in a row, 5-on-5. That kind of there's a homestand. He might be back on some of them, maybe against the Clippers, or that would be like an interesting game because they're not as strong as the rest of the teams they play, or stuff like that. But it begs the question, like, so what do we do now? We talked about bench being balanced. Like we have Forbes, a shooter, we have Bones, Boogie, J. Mike's playing well. Like Rivers is a good defensive guard. The starters are okay. Like, what are we close to having too many guys? That's stupid to say after yesterday's like collapse. Is it dumb to say we have too many guys? What do you think?
Okay, so you have a team with many players on it, real players, and I was counting all of them. You have 14 guys that are real NBA players, no questions. Actually, you have 15, but one of them is Davon Reed, and he's on on a two-way contract, so he will not be able to play in the playoffs. So even with him, you would have 15 guys. If you look at the list of the guards Nuggets have, I'm not talking about the top level talent, but I'm talking about guys that are deserving minutes because they've had really good stretches during this season.
Yeah.
So when Jamal returns, he will be joined by Monte, Bones, Facu, Barton, Rivers, and Forbes. That's 7 guys. Okay, you can move Rivers to the wings and add him to a list of Gordon, Jeff Green, and Michael Porter. And then you go to the bigs, and you over there have Jokic, you have JaMychal Green, you have Boogie Cousins, and you have Zeke Naji. Zeke Naji, who is an afterthought right now. He got injured in a really bad moment for himself because before that, J-Mike wasn't playing great.
Yeah, Zeke was taking over. He was part of the rotation, clearly. Yeah.
And then he just got sore knees, and J-Mike just used Boogie as his Alabama brother, and that combo is really destroying worlds, destroying other benches. So you only have Vlatko, who is injured. He might come back, but he will probably not be a part of any kind of rotation.
Yeah.
You have Marcus Howard. We haven't heard about him in a long time.
He's probably not.
Yeah.
But he's also on a two-way.
But other guys, I mean, listen, man, if we have 14 guys and we'll probably have like 8 of them playing in the playoffs, that's 6 guys that will not be playing in every game. 6 guys that might only come in 4th quarter if it's a blowout in the playoffs. Who do you think gets cut of the rotation first? In that perfect scenario?
I think Naji's probably out, and unless there's like an injury, because it's not that, because that's the things, like that second unit when they brought Forbes, it's so weird. Like, I don't know, it's just fun to me, like how NBA basketball works sometimes, is that you have these teams, just like you have these ingredients, just how you cook them up, like because Forbes got here, so you have that reliable shooter, even though he was like 1 of 4 or whatever from last night. But you have a reliable shooter that you can't leave. So now you're not relying anymore on JaMychal Green making those 3-pointers. You have enough with Bones and Forbes. So what happens now? Then he becomes a dunker spot guy, which is more of a natural position, and just like an offensive bully and a finisher, and then controlling the defensive board. So all of a sudden you unlock him in the best spot possible. Reason for me him over Naji is just the defensive end. As much as Naji's a good switchable defender and can keep up with the guys, his defensive rebounding was an issue, and he doesn't have that consistency. And so imagine a game like yesterday, you don't have a guy that can basically clear up the glass with Cousins on the team when the other team has like Kevin Love and in Mobley and Markkanen, in the rotation. Not even Jared Allen yesterday. Yeah. So I think that's why Zeke falls off, even though he's a shooter. If Michael Porter comes back, you already have that covered. And you have part of the rebounding with Michael Porter. So I think like JaMychal is the guy up along with Boogie. That's like a thing.
How safe do you think Jeff Green is?
He is, he's like a question mark. I think he's okay safe. Because I don't know if Michael Porter will be available completely. Also, the problem always with Michael Porter is the playoff minutes, because of all these injuries, he didn't have a chance to. We can say objectively he's a little bit of a slower learner than the rest. Like he absorbs all these like intricacies less than the rest. So it took like a couple of playoff runs for him to come into the season. And I remember like the first Phoenix game when he was still probably less injured. Like he was doing a lot of these little things that are important. It's just that after all these injuries, he'll probably regress to the whatever he knows best to do. And it's shooting mostly and picking up some rebounds. But all these little things that Jeff does that help get easy points. We talked about the transition pin downs in the paint, like some of that, some of the cuts, athletic plays that leaking out in transition and not dropping the ball when you catch it. So I think he's probably safe for a few minutes just to be like considered in there. I think we're good with Jeff.
Do you think it would be beneficial for them, for both Michael Porter and Jeff Green to play, let's say, less than 20 minutes per game in playoffs?
Probably. I mean, especially coming off of the back surgery, like not in general, but that's like, I think you kind of split him up because we saw like Jeff Green, because Jeff Green might be important like in the minutes that are not the crunch time. Like you want him to have those easy points at the beginning of the games where people are still like, it's the boxing match. So if they're still feeling each other out, you throw in Jeff Green. He does those little things that I just mentioned, and he gets you like 6 to 8 points just quickly, and then you might not even play again. And he's a veteran enough to like he lived through those moments when he would play maybe the whole half, most of the half, and then just doesn't come in the next. So I think we're good with him either way. Like I think he understands the NBA well enough not to like cause any chemistry problems if he doesn't play. And I think with Porter's injuries, I think it's more safe to have him for a little bit in there. So kind of split it between them on Gordon at the paired position with them. So
Okay, so let me take another step forward. Let's say we play the Golden State Warriors in the first round, because unless there is this doomsday scenario when Nuggets fall down to seventh position in the seventh seed, which bigs do you think the Nuggets should play against the Warriors?
I mean, obviously, Jokic, Gordon. Let's see. I think Jeff and Boogie from the bench. Like, I think that's, you have to have those two on the bench. Like, they have a chance to bully these teams, especially. And we talk about Golden State. They really don't have a backup, so I think Jeff and Boogie could actually make some difference in those minutes the Jokic's not playing just by bully ball. And I think also you have a luxury of if putting Jamichael. Sorry, I said Jamichael, not Jeff. Jamichael and Boogie, and you have luxury of having Jamichael with Jokic at some points too, because they already know each other. They play well together. He fits with both of those guys. And I think you got to have Michael Porter just to respond on the shooting. Like, and you'll see like, and I but it's really tough. Like that's why we kind of having this Borek. Like then my brain goes to like, man, on the offensive end for the Warriors, like they move all the time. They're so smart. Would they expose Michael Porter too much? Like would his head be on a swivel all the time and not being sure where to cover or where to go on defense? So that's kind of so, but that's why you have Jeff Green as a veteran. That's, you just plug him in then, and you're kind of covered. Like he at least has those little fundamental things better than Michael Porter right now. I think, I don't know if Malone will do it, like, but I think you have options and you keep it open. Like you can't be like, this is the 7 I play, hell or high water. I think you gotta adjust on the fly.
Do you think you could afford playing Forbes in that series?
Well, again, it's one of those, like, it depends.
They have some really good guards.
Yeah, but it depends on how. Yeah, that's true. Depends on how Bones plays too. It's just that if you have Rivers and Murray and you go with just wings, 3 to 4, like you go Murray, MPJ, Rivers, and Jamichael, Boogie, like that might be good enough. So because I think Forbes is one of those guys. Like he's been there. He won the championship last year like that. He played against Miami, played great, then he didn't play the next series. It's just series to series, and I think that was good acquisitions by Tim Connelly, because you're not getting pouty guys. Like you can have a guy that's like going to be fine if he doesn't play that series, and that's the luxury. That's why I think we don't have a problem with having too many guys, because I think they understand the hierarchy. Like it's not going to happen like, oh, he's going to start making a scene in the locker room because he didn't play against Golden State, but then he comes the next round and wins the series against whatever, Memphis. I don't, obviously like long shot, but I'm saying like whatever can happen. So
do you have a preferred matchup right now for the round 1?
It's still Warriors. It's got to be Warriors because of the Steph injury. Like, and then the point that no one can guard Jokic in that lineup if they really like are calling it like they should.
You forgot about James Wiseman.
Well, still, I'm saying no one can guard him. Like, it's still going to be doubling and stuff. So it's.
I don't know. I kind of still like the Utah matchup because of the flammable nature of that Utah team. They could just at one point disperse into nothing. And
I mean, maybe, yeah. Conley's been slipping, so maybe that's it, because he was a big deal in the bubble. A lot of times, like, when Donovan wasn't scoring 50s, like Conley was the guy that can rely on, that secondary ball handler. Like, we'll see. It's definitely interesting. Like, I really don't, like, that's things, like, I really don't have a preferred at this point. Like, when you're this type of team this year, and where are you in the standings? There's no preferred. Like, you're not, none of them, all of them can beat you. Like, it's just a reality. Like, everyone has a thing that they can throw at you, and if that works for them, you're done. Either way, like, again, but I'm saying, like, Nuggets could, in that first round, beat someone that's not Phoenix.
let's say they lose the first round for the first time
Okay.
in Jokic tenure. How many games at minimum would you feel it's okay? I mean, do they need to go to game 6, game 7 for you to feel
It also depends.
okay
So
about it?
if they take on the Warriors and Steph is not playing and they lose in 6, it sucks. Like,
Sure,
that
sure.
you should basically win if Steph's not playing against
Oh,
the
I agree.
Warriors. Probably in 5 or 6. Like, if we're gonna go that far, if Steph's playing and he's healthy and everything, and we lose to the Warriors, 4-2 is fine. Like, the Warriors that they're like this right now, like, they might win it, and might give Phoenix a hard time. So 4-2, 4-3, like, great. 4-1, not great. Sweep is obviously be catastrophic, because again, you don't have a Jokic matchup on the other end, so he should win you 1 or 2 games at least. The other, Memphis, that would suck. Like, that would hopefully go to 7, and 6 and 5 would suck, because again, Memphis is also so young, and then Phoenix, if it ends up being the play-in and you go to eight seed with Phoenix, like, then I expect a sweep, honestly.
Going to a plane would suck so bad after all the heroic wins we got, but man, like Timberwolves, they just don't lose games.
Yeah, I think, but I think I think they have a lot of tough schedule, I think, than the Nuggets. So I think it might happen. I was talking about in the Nuggets Serbia today. Like, we might happen to have or I don't know if I mentioned it, or just in general. I think, like, we might see a situation where both teams lose, but Nuggets are still 6th, because just equally they're losing. So we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, it's getting messy. It's getting messy, and nobody knows anything right now regarding the seeding. We know that Phoenix is number 1 and probably Memphis number 2. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
Probably
fine. I mean,
Memphis.
but again, like, this is, like, I saw someone in Serbian says we should stop with pessimistic. It's honestly, it's not pessimistic. We're just what the options could be and what would be understandable. Honestly, we shouldn't talk yet about it. We got to see if we're going to make the playoffs and all that. But I think there's legitimate questions of, like, well, what's the success of the season? I'm tempering my expectations. Like, for me, first round exit wouldn't be a disgrace, wouldn't be bad.
That's
And
right.
we might see, like, people have to understand these guys are coming off of injuries, and if they come back, we might see a worse team that we've had before. Because of just, if they're not ready, like, and you want to have them ready, and you want to give them the ball in their hands because they're the max guys, we might be worse off than we were with Monte and Barton, because of just how the cookie crumbled. So, and how they're in their development. So we'll see. I mean, I'm excited to see him play. I'd rather be in either heaven or hell than in purgatory this entire season. I'd rather see them whatever they are, even if we lose because Murray's not ready. I'd rather see that than just being like, okay, we might win the first round like last year, but still being like a question mark in the off season. So this way we'll know what to do for next season, what to expect. So,
Yeah, and when Jamal returns, he will look rough for first 10 games for sure. I mean,
yeah.
we have that image of him, scoring 50 in the bubble, and it will not
50
look like
against
that.
the Cavs like last year too. Like, he was really good.
That's right. So don't expect great things in first 10 games, and unfortunately,
But
like
if we get that,
5 of them can be in the playoffs.
yeah. But if we see good things in the first 5 games, then expect us to be hyped to win the championship. So we'll go crazy.
Of course, we'll do. We'll get
Yeah,
drunk.
exactly. So that's good. That probably sums it up. We should probably stop there before we start fantasizing about Jamal's 50s again. Uh, we'll see what happens. We'll see next year. Hopefully by next week we'll know. We'll either see them or not. So thanks everyone for watching us. Follow DNVR everywhere on these web pages and social media and all that. Nuggets, DNVR Sports YouTube, DNVR Nuggets podcast feed. We're on Twitter. Follow us there. See what we think during the week and all that. So we'll see you next week. Idemo Nuggets.
Let's go Nuggets.